So you all excited? Ready to go? New topic. We're going to talk about something else than patterns. We're going to talk about code, right? So this session is about Move and how that impacts localization and componentization. So I'm going to stumble up that word like 10 times in the next 5 minutes. So help me, be patient. With me today, I have Thomas and Gert, and we are from the engineering team. And we're going to talk a little more about this fine thing. But before we go into the details, let's talk about where we actually got the idea for this. So you all know the application. We use this worldwide based application. And we just saw it had a W1 name on it, but that's not quite true, right? So we have this single package that's called the base application. It used to be bigger than it is today. But it also used to have some localization in there, even in the base application. Yes, of course, there's some packages that on top that has some localizations in there, but more often than not, we actually had a situation where we needed to put some localization into the base app. And when we couldn't make that work across all the different countries out there, we had to do the simple version and copy the whole base application into a new application and call this one the Dutch one or the English one or whatever. And you can imagine the frustration of a developer who has to change a single line of code in the base application and port that to many, many different lines in many different applications just to find that there's a conflict in the last application he gets to, right? Oh, the frustration. So obviously, we want to change that. So what we want to do is take that single application and turn it into something else. And the first thing we did, and what we want to continue with, is take something out. And we all saw in the keynote today that we have a system layer and also a business foundation layer, which gives us like some of the functionality that's common to all the different versions we have out there. And we want to do even more. We want to take this monolith and break it down into smaller components, smaller packages, smaller apps that we can release and maintain individually, so we don't have to worry about taking that whole big thing and shipping it every time. We also want to be a little more agile and being able to kind of change things out underneath. The big challenge with this is breaking changes. How can we make any change we do a little less breaking? We would like to make it non-breaking, obviously, but that's a bit difficult, right? So how can we make it a little less breaking? At least that's our idea. That's how we want to do it. That's what we think of when we're looking at the cloud. We want to do things more efficient, more agile, and we want to be really good at this. So what are our options? Well, today we already have something in the product. We have obsolete. Obsolete allows us to define that we are going to change something here, we are going to do something new, we're going to introduce a new module, a new functionality, and you should think about uptaking it. We can talk about when we will do it, and you guys can see that we're going to implement this. It has some benefits and some drawbacks. One of the key drawbacks here is that we need to maintain some kind of side-by-side implementation, so while everybody who's depending on the functionality that's moving to a new module is kind of looking at it and preparing for it, we need to kind of have those two systems running side by side, causing a lot of challenges. And we are really not building a new functionality. We just want to move the existing one over here, right? So it should be the same thing. There should be no news there. Okay, what else do we have? We have an application abstraction. So in the app.json, you will find, there we go. You will find this application property, and it has a version number, and that's kind of the abstraction that talks about all the applications that are below that. That's the base application, the system application, the foundation, and a lot of other apps behind that single number. And you can do the same thing, so you can have your app that's kind of abstracting away all the dependencies that you have, right? This gives us some benefits. That means we can move things around underneath this abstraction without anybody noticing. And the way we do this is by setting the propagate dependencies property, which means that if you are depending on the application, then automatically all the dependencies are included in your dependency chain. Great work, right? Now we can actually do it, right? So we have some good options here. We can do obsolescence, and we can do the application abstraction, all great work, but still, there's something missing. What about the data? What about the data, right? The data is always the challenge here, right? How can we make that less breaking when we move the data? We have actually some functionality. We have data migration. It's much easier these days to move data from one table to another table using the data migration. Good options. Again, we really just want to move it. We don't want to copy it, right? So maybe that's not it. We also have the feature keys. So if we had that side-by-side implementation, we could choose at some given point, or the customer could choose at some given point, to switch over. And we could copy the data there if we want to, but again, it's maybe not quite what we want. So we can't get it all. We all know that. It's not possible. We can't get it all. So we choose the hardest problem. The hardest problem here is the data, right? We want to move the data without having to write upgrade code, without having to copy data. So we want to move the data. The simples we have a good solution for. So we introduced the new obsolescence state. Actually, there are two, pending move and moved. And there are two new properties, the moved from and the moved to. So that gives you an indication that something is about to move, where it's moving from, where it's moving to, or something has moved, where it's moved from and where it's moved to, right? Should make this move a little easier. The properties are available on tables and fields, and it removes completely the need to copy data, because underneath, when you're synchronizing the extensions, we will be renaming the tables underneath. So there's no copying of data, it's simply just repurposing the tables underneath. So now we have a solution that works for both symbols and data. But don't take my word for it. Gert, do you want to show how it works?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to demo the move table and some of the different places you can move the data. But instead of showing you a let's move table A from extension 1 to table 1 in extension 2, I wanted to make something that's a little bit more relatable. So as you do these days, I asked Copilot to come up with some ideas for a demo app that I could easily build that would then allow me to demonstrate this capability. And Copilot, I don't know if it had any ulterior motives, but it suggested I should create an app that tracks the human worker efficiency by tracking coffee consumption and then also employee energy levels, and then see how that correlates to how efficiently they've performed tasks. It's a little concerning maybe, but I went ahead and just built that app. So here's a representation of the app I built. It's supposed to be a little bit of a big app. It's not that big, but so it can track coffee consumption of employees. It can track their energy levels throughout the day, task completion as they go through that, and then it'll calculate how efficient they are for each task with at whatever point they are. So of course this still doesn't show how to move. So we use it to break up the base app, right? We want to componentize this big thing. So in my demo, I'll be doing the same. So I'll first show you the one big app. Then I made an intermediate preparation step where I use pending move. And then in the version 2 of my app, I actually split it up into these 5 apps. And the human worker efficiency tracker is where all the data used to be, and then it's going to move down into the various individual apps. So let me show you. So I just have, this is Business Central unmodified so far. And here I have my version 1 of the app. I have all these objects. You can see I have some tables, some pages, a role center extension, number of things, and there's going to be a lot of publishing involved in this demo, so bear with me, because should publish just fine. See if it does that. Okay. So I edited the role center so I can easily show you these things, right? So expected energy boost, coffee consumption, energy levels, task entries, but I have no data because, So I also built a demo data app, which is rather simple. It just populates some random data in these tables. So I'll go ahead and publish that, and that goes well. Oh, sorry. So now we should have data in all these tables. So what data is there doesn't really matter, but you can see here like this employee from this task from this time to this time, and they were, this is how efficient they were compared to what was expected. So that's version 1 of my app, and I think it's a little bit too big. It has 4 features. Let's try and split that up. So of course, I've prepared all of this so you don't have to watch me actually do it. So version 1.1, this is, it's kind of an optional step. You don't have to do this, but I think it's nice if you want to follow non-breaking principles and warn people about what you're going to do. So I created a little base library, which just has an enum and role center extension. My coffee tracker app now has, the table. I split it into folders so I can organize my code. And here, for the first time, I've indicated I'm going to be moving this table. And this is the app ID of the app I'm going to move it to, which at this point doesn't exist, but I pre-populated it. And the same for some of these other features. And of course, I also created some table extensions. So this field used to be in my task table, and now I've put it in a table extension, still all within the same app. When you indicate pending move, this generates a cop warning for you, right? So, by the way, I have almost all rules enabled here. So the reason I'm not getting a warning is because I've pragmaed all the ones. I do it this way. I enable all the warnings, and then I go through them. And when I think I've handled it, I add a pragma, so it goes away, and I don't see it anymore. So you'll see this throughout the demo. So I can obviously go ahead and publish this. And there's been no change in logic, really. This is exactly the same app, just structured a little bit differently in the source code. So as you'd expect, there is also no change in the UI, and there's no change in the data. Everything's fine. But now on to making actual separate apps. So if I go over to my version 2 workspace, now these are all individual apps, and you'll see some of these app IDs come back. So never mind some of these warnings. If when we look at the table now, all the obsolete properties are gone because this is the new app which sits below my human worker. So this now indicates where the table has moved from, and it is moved from this human worker efficiency tracker app down here, where in my source code I only have the table and the page extensions, but I like to split my code into, so I can very clearly see where things are. So my legacy table is now this one, and this has been moved. The reason you need to keep this metadata is the system needs to know what moved from where to where, and what was the schema, so that you don't accidentally move a table and change its schema at the same time, because that would be rather breaking. So you don't need any code in here, but you do need to keep all the SQL schema elements, so the I guess app source cop can verify that you're not breaking stuff. So I'm, by the way, demoing what you would do in a developer scenario. So I could try and publish this space now, but I already have an app installed on my system that has this enum, so it's just going to complain. So since we're in a dev scenario, I can very easily go and just uninstall it, and that will make things a little bit easier for my demo. So if I go in here and uninstall this thing, I don't want to remove the data. That's kind of the point of the demo. So there it is, it's gone. So now, unfortunately, you have to sit here and watch me publish 5 extensions, but it should be rather quick. So yeah. I think if I put them side by side, we can get through it a little bit quicker. So this first base library has no tables, so it's really not that interesting, but I wanted to structure my code nicely. So this is now the first table that has been moved to a different app. And you can see not all of my actions are appearing because I haven't installed those apps yet. When you do this from VS Code, it works a little bit differently than if you were to try this in production, and I think Thomas will explain why later, but my data has already moved, and that's purely because I'm doing this from VS Code. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to run the table. So yeah, unfortunately, I have to run through all of these, so bear with me. And I hope I don't miss one. Also, I don't want to wait for the browser to load. I don't need that. So there we go. And now I've published all of the apps. Let me get rid of some of these. I don't need them. And now I'm running on my split app. I still have all my data. It didn't go anywhere. And in extension management, I can see I have lots of version 2s now, which is nice. But I still have this demo data app on version 1. And I can go and install that. And even though it's now pointing to the split apps, it still installs, it still works. It can still find all of the tables, even though they're in different apps now. And that's because I used propagate dependencies in my human worker app JSON. So here I have defined propagate dependencies, and I have set the dependencies to all of the individual apps. So that was my first demo, I think. So seems pretty easy to split the app. There are no issues, but when you technically, it's fairly easy. But logically, you can run into very simple issues where you still have to make a choice, right? So here's an example where your big app may add a group of actions, and you add several actions, and then when you split the app, each of the actions goes to an individual app. Well, who owns the group? Who's going to add the group? You don't know. There's probably not a good place to put that, so you might have to restructure some of your UI. When you're splitting your app, and you do that before, these are the trickier decisions you have to make. Technically, it's just all about dependencies, and you can solve those. So the demo I just did, we moved tables down from one app down into sub-apps. But you might want to move tables another way. So moving sideways between two unrelated apps. I'm going to use the same apps as a demo. So here I want to move a table from my new coffee tracker app to my energy level tracker app. There's no dependency between these. So these could be two completely unrelated apps. And it works exactly the same way. So if I go back here, yeah. I created the version 2.1. It's like I like preparing my code for this. So this expected energy boost table tells you if you drink this much coffee, this is what I expect your energy boost to be. Really belongs in the other app. So again, I set pending move and where it's going to move to. And again, like the move from property. Don't need that anymore, so I commented that out. And that there's not much. Obviously, I have to move the page with it as well. And again, this is just a preparation step, so I'll publish that. If anybody depends on my app, they will now know, hey, this table that I'm using, it's going to go away at some point in the future, so, prepare. Again, same app, nothing much to show here. In my version 3, where I've actually done the move, you can see I didn't add the other apps to this workspace because it's not relevant for the demo. In the Coffee Tracker app now, the table's gone, but I have it as a legacy. So it's exactly the same as in the first scenario. And in the Energy Level Tracker app, I have now moved my table here, and my energy boost is here. So I should now be able to publish these apps, and hopefully it'll work. And this time I don't have to uninstall anything, which is also nice. I hope it works. So that published. Let me go back and publish the other one. So you might wonder how it is that nothing is breaking while I'm publishing these. And that is because I have nobody depending on my Coffee Tracker app that doesn't also depend on the Energy Level Boost app, the Energy Level Tracker. If I had an app that only depended on my Coffee Tracker, it would absolutely be broken now because the table is gone and it would complain that it can't find the page, it can't find the... So, as you can see here, my data is still there, but it is now in another app. And if I go back to extension management, I can, it's not very interesting, but you can see version 3. My other apps didn't change, they're still installed. My demo data app is still there. So that all still works. So that was a sideways move. And the third way you can move a table is you can move it up. So the next demo, which unfortunately is going to look exactly like the previous one, is going to move a table from the task tracker app to the human worker efficiency tracker app. And again, if you had somebody depending on that task tracker that didn't depend on the other app, you would break them. But I made my demo so it wouldn't break. So let me very quickly show you that. So again, I did the same thing. So I have my preparation here, version 3, where I think it's this one that I want to move. Yeah. So this is a table that stores expected efficiency. You know, some people work faster than others, so you can put in how fast you think people will work, and then the AI can compare their actual performance versus this. So this table is gonna move up. Same thing with the page. So I publish this. Again, this is just to give people a warning. You can also see that using pending move, I can indicate that the table is moving and where it's moving to. But in the receiving app, there is no change yet. I can't indicate that it's going to get a new table. So for that, unfortunately, you have to wait until it's actually published. I think this is my last version. So again, I use the exact same pattern as before. I put the table in a legacy folder. It's now moved to, by the way, I forgot to mention, I might go go back a bit. And then in my human worker efficiency tracker app, I now got the new table over here. So when I publish this, this will move. The thing I forgot to mention earlier is when we split the table with these table extensions, these fields got moved back up. So I'll show it on the slide in a bit. Sorry for messing up that bit showing you. Let me just quickly publish these so you can see that moving up also works and doesn't break if you handle your dependencies. Again, I know the demo isn't very visually appealing because it's the same thing over and over again, but I wanted to show that it actually works. Let's see. So now I'm on the very last version. I finally got all my tables where I want them. I still have all my data in the right places, and the tables didn't change, they didn't move, so that's nice. If I just very, very quickly go back to version 2, which is the bit that I missed before, I think I had some here. Right. So in the task table, I had a field called expected duration that is a field that moved back to the app. So the table itself moved down to the task app, but this field moved up or stayed in the human worker tracker, and the syntax is identical, right? So this all works very nicely, and you can now split a table between two apps, create a table extension and table. It's a very nice feature. It helps us a lot. Very final bit that I wanted to show you after all my demo. It's kind of a recap of where we ended. So we started with one really big app with 4 different features, and then we split the app into 5 different apps, where each app now handles only one thing. And version-wise, the demo data app is still on version 1, because that didn't change at all. The base is still on version 2. The coffee tracker and energy level tracker, that was the first sideways move, they're on version 3. And the task tracker and the human worker efficiency tracker, they're on version 4. That was the move up. So if I now go back to the slides, this is a recap of all the demos I just showed, where we went from one big app to all the separate apps. And that's how you would use it as a developer. It seems to all work just fine. But Thomas is now going to explain all the internals and why it isn't as simple as it looks.
Yes, thank you, Gert. All right, let's step forward here. So we also got showing his presentation about how we are going to move all these tables and fields. We're moving them down, we're moving them sideways, and we're moving them up around here. And the name of the game here is to handle all of your dependencies, because doing a move is a breaking change. You are going to annotate your tables on your fields with having been moved, and at that situation, you will not be able to access them. You need to then have a reference to the new table or the new set of fields. So when we had a look at his an overview of his extensions right here, we could see that his top level was the app that he started out with, and he annotated that one with being a propagated dependency. So all of the dependency it has is now showing out to his demo data and all the other apps that might depend on his apps. So from his perspective, it all looks good. And from all the other ones that are depending on just this one app, it all looks good as well, because now you only did the down move. But if you were to have all these apps published out into the world, and somebody would take a dependency on task tracker, for instance, and he would move the tables up, then that would be a breaking change, and we need to to handle these situations. So from a Microsoft point of view, we try to handle this with the application package, where we have propagated dependencies over the base application, system application, business foundation, all these ones. So we can move tables and fields around within our scope of extensions, and then we will not be ass breaking for everybody else. So that's a recommendation for you as well to think about. But what does this mean actually for the upgrade process? So when you are going to use these ones, what are we going to do here? Well, first of all, we still need to respect the order of the dependencies when you do the publishing. The compiler still needs to find all of its references, so we need to follow this. But second, we also need to make sure that we publish all of the apps before we synchronize them, so they know about all of the fields that we're about to synchronize. Because, another situation that we might come into is if we do a half-done move, then we can also get into situations where a table has been renamed, and then the system cannot find it under the original name. So we need to make sure that all the apps have been published, been synced, and been installed, and now we're in a good shape again, so we can actually have a fully working system. So if we take a look at how that would look in the real-world scenario, we would publish all of them in the dependency tree order, and then we will start syncing, and of course, last, we will do the install for all the apps here. All right, so how can we use this for componentization here? Well, we will use this one and continue to use these move operations in Microsoft for actually splitting up our own apps into more and more and dividing them into smaller components so we can iterate on them individually. So you will see more and more of these obsolete moving properties around our apps, because our main goal is to have a standardized version of the base application, so we don't have a localized version for each country, but those are instead a separate app that are built on top of our standardized set of standardized base application. But again, this is an organic growth. It's not going to come tomorrow. It's going to take some time, but we are getting there. We're working towards it. This is the goal of everything. So right now, using the obsolete move properties here and the move to and move from properties, these are limited for now for first-party apps, for Microsoft apps, because we need to make sure that all of these ones are really working well. So we need to make sure that we can walk before we run with this set of features right here. This is your data, and this is really critical to get it right. In time, we will open up for more and more partners, so we can slowly weave out the worst set of issues right here. And so everybody should make sure that they, first of all, take a dependency on the application dependency, as was defined in the app.json, and not on the base application or business foundation app, because of these situations where we're moving fields and tables around. And this will be a multi-release set of moves, and we will create more clarity about what can you expect from us in these situations where we are going to move these tables and fields around and restructure our own code. And we also create clarity about when can you actually start removing some of these tables and fields again. Because as the keen-eyed among you might have seen, Gert was having both the old and the new set of tables in each app, but living side by side. So at some point we need to clean up as well. So what can you do today? Well, keep up with all the changes that we are doing. We try to be less breaking as possible. We try our best. But yeah, take the dependency on the application one. If you find that you're missing some symbols, have a look into the move properties. They will give you the app ID, and from there you can figure out what is actually the app that you are missing a dependency on, and what are some of the changes here. And you can also start componentizing your own app. Gert did that with his 1.1 version of the human coffee efficiency tracker, where he started he started splitting up his table into table extensions as well as his table. So he started splitting it into individual feature groups. You can start using namespaces in relation to this, so you're still having the same separation. You have a good idea of what feature lives in what area. And that way you kind of have your functionality split into different components, and you're ready when this feature is available to you. So all in all, mind your dependencies, because this is a breaking change. Yeah, let's see where this one goes. So this is all for us right now. And we are open now for questions from the audience.
Oh, so many questions.
We have a couple.
That was the one who doesn't want to.
Go ahead.
You get the
No, I don't want a T-shirt. Two questions. You can give it to another. Actually, you named the namespaces at the last part. You didn't use it in your demo, right? So do you, in your preps, already need to prep those namespaces for what you do? What you're going to do, actually?
You don't have to.
No.
And think of namespaces as just being the prefix to your object name. It's part of the object name. So you can't, once you set it, you can't change it. So I could have gone in my version 1.1 and added all namespaces in the when I split it, between the coffee tracker and the energy level tracker. And if I'd made a mistake, like in my second and third demo, they're basically mistakes, right? I left the table in the wrong app. I would be stuck with the wrong namespace. I've been asking for ways to rename namespaces. Maybe in a future version we'll get that, but for now, namespace is optional. Once you use it, you're stuck with them. So if they're useful for you, go use them, but it's entirely optional, and it's not related to the move at all. So
Okay. Yeah. And I had another question. In the upgrade, Thomas, you said with a half sync, you might be in problems. If you would exercise this on a production environment, how do you prevent not to get into problems in the sense of, I need to be disciplined, I understand, but is there a way of something reminding me, hey, wait, there is something more there? Or is it like, well, Luc, you're lost, it's your responsibility, or is there something to be in the future there that would help me to say, I have these combinations, more or less inform the system that I'm going to upload them and should upload them first or publish them first before I do the sync?
Yeah. So right now we don't have any system to help you guide with this entire flow right here, but yes, it would be nice to actually signal to the
Okay.
This is a part of the
It's a T-shirt for him. Well, I'll give it.
there's somebody over here first. Yeah.
Let's see a hand there.
All right. If I do a better job with your T-shirt. Nope.
I was thinking about how this would break external apps that is dependent on the app that you're trying to simplify. Do you need to add all the extra dependencies? For example, you have some APIs that you have made in a different app that is dependent on the human coffee big app, and then it gets break down into multiple different apps. Can you still have that original dependency and everything will work, or do you need to make extra dependencies on the different apps?
Good question. So I think Gert showed it very nicely with the fact that he had a single app to begin with. As long as you're depending on that, and the only dependencies that app has is the ones that's broken into, and you use the propagate dependencies, then it works fine. But if you have you move something completely out of that dependency tree somewhere else, then your consumer will have to uptake a new dependency, right?
Okay, so you can still, it is a form of grouping still when you have the propagated dependency.
Yeah, and it's only one level. That's also important to know. So Gert has a good example in his. Maybe we can go back to that slide. So he's taking a dependency directly from the original app to the base implementation here. Imagine he didn't do that. Then anyone using objects in the base library here would have to uptake a new dependency because it doesn't propagate more than one level, right? So that is also important when you design the decomponentization, right? Take that into account.
Okay.
It's okay to have a breaking change because you can announce it and you can say to people, hey, we're going to move it out to a different app somewhere else and please add a new dependency to your consumers. That's okay. But if you don't want to do that, then you need to be mindful about these dependencies.
Yeah, so if I make a group app that has dependencies to a lot of different apps that has propagated dependencies, then I only need to have one dependency in my API app on that group app.
Exactly. Yep.
Amazing.
And we have a T-shirt as well here.
Thank you. Hey, so if I want to use the move to features, but what if I just don't install the move to app, and will the previous data be in some kind of limbo, like unavailable, or?
So you still need the other app to take it over. It's only at that point in time we actually do the rename and you remove the data.
This is the half-baked scenario we have where you didn't complete the last step.
Yeah.
Can't access the data because the symbol is gone from that app. But the data is still in the database, so you should take it over as soon as possible. You should get that last app installed.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll add tooling, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think to clarify, that's a difference between the VS Code publish, which I showed, because VS Code does publish, sync, install all in one step. So it works in VS Code, but that's because it's a special code path for the developer scenario, because otherwise you'd be stuck, running a bunch of PowerShell commands all the time. When you do this in the cloud, in a sandbox or production environment or anything a little bit more serious, you have to follow the pattern that Thomas said, which is first you publish everything so the system knows the entire picture. Then you sync all of them. You have to do it in the right order, and then you can install all of them. And if you mess up and you leave your system, in a half-baked state, you will have issues. Okay. And yes, it would be very nice if you could then somehow see, like, where in the process did you get stuck? Like, hey, you're missing syncing this app, for example. Yeah. That would be very nice. Yeah.
And maybe one little more question. Is there already some kind of schedule when we get rid of the legacy parts that we like? You showed it in your app where you need to keep the original schema information in there, right?
Yeah. So I don't think we have any concrete information about when we're going to do this. What we, I think, have announced is that in version 26, we're going to be cleaning up all the currently obsolete removed tables. Yeah. And so we're looking at, we don't want, if something was obsoleted at the end of version 25, we're not going to remove it in 26, right? So we're probably going to take everything that was obsolete removed version 23 and below, and we'll clean up the SQL schema. That's in the plan for version 26. I would imagine that when we get around to cleaning up these legacy tables, we will snap to the same schedule we use for that. Yeah. So since this is a newer feature, I don't think any of it's going to get removed before version 31. Which is a while away. So, no rush. Okay. You guys have time to figure it out.
Yeah, about the namespaces and the affixes that we're using now for objects. I know you didn't mention this, but...
We have a session tomorrow.
You have a session tomorrow about that?
It's called namespaces. Come and ask.
All right, I'll wait.
Yeah.
But it includes moving data between tables that's now without the affixes. Is that handled as well?
Unrelated to namespaces. The reason why we mentioned it is because when you do the whole refactoring and preparing your application to be moved, it can be nice to segment that into namespaces. Like when you extract the table extension, put it in some namespace where it belongs, so you're kind of ready for the move. Where it's not a rename, because if you rename the original table, then it's a breaking change, right? So it's just a choice. It's not really related to the move, it's more of a suggestion here, the namespaces.
I think last question, then they're gonna kick us out. But feel free
Okay,
to
lucky
just
me.
come up.
Okay, I'm just curious about the fact you said that there would not be a breaking change if you kept depending on the top level application. But what if you have made an index that now contains fields split into different apps? Wouldn't that be a problem, or have you finally allowed us to make indexes across?
No changes there. No changes there.
So that would be a breaking change.
Yeah, if you moved parts of the table that it participates in the index, yes.
So
have
you
to move all the
could risk of customers having issues if you do this kind of split up.
If you put them into indexes, yes, then that would be.
If the customers have put them into
Yeah,
indexes,
yeah,
yes.
no, absolutely. So that will happen. That is the breaking part of it. We cannot solve all the breaking issues.
Okay.
That is true.
All right. I think that's it for us.
We're out of time.
Sorry. Let's go away over here. So, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.